All right, let's talk about one of the most critical maritime choke points on the entire planet. Tensions are, well, they're sky high. So it makes you wonder, right? What would it actually look like to protect all those oil tankers passing through? Well, today we're going to use some open source intelligence, OSINT, to break down the strategic playbook for a naval escort mission right through the Strait of Hormuz. We're going to see exactly how this thing could unfold.
And to get why this matters so much, you just have to look at the numbers. I mean, we're talking about a channel that carries somewhere between 20 and 25% of the world's entire seaborne oil trade. This isn't just a body of water, it's a vital artery for the global economy. Any disruption here, any at all, sends massive shockwaves everywhere, almost instantly.
So yeah, that immense risk brings us right to the big question, doesn't it? When you've got billions and billions of dollars in trade on the line every single day, how does a modern naval force actually go about protecting these incredibly vulnerable tankers? What does that plan even look like out on the water?
To really get a grip on the military plan, you've got to start with the map. The whole problem, the core of it, is just geography. This is a place where global trade gets squeezed through this tiny, absolutely unavoidable bottleneck.
And get this, the key number here is just 21 miles. That's how wide the strait is at its narrowest point. But the real kicker is that the shipping lanes themselves, they're only about 2 miles wide in each direction. So you have the world's largest tankers forced into these super predictable narrow paths. It basically makes them sitting ducks, easy targets.
So you might be asking, how in the world do we know what the plan is before it even happens? Well, the answer is something called OSINT, or Open Source Intelligence. It's all about analyzing publicly available data. Think ship movements, flight patterns, that kind of stuff. Analysts can piece it all together to predict what a military is going to do, sometimes well before there's any official announcement. It's exactly how we can see this entire playbook taking shape right now.
And look, this isn't just some theoretical exercise. I mean, right now, as we speak, a coalition of naval warships is actually assembling near the strait. They're literally putting the pieces on the board for a potential mission.
So who's on the board? Well, it's a real multinational effort. You've got the United States with its destroyers and those super agile littoral combat ships. France is in the mix with frigates and amphibious carriers. Then you have the UK, Greece, and other EU partners bringing their own key assets. The important thing to remember is that each of these navies brings a very specific and very crucial capability to the table.
But here's what's really interesting. Look at where they're positioned. They aren't all crowded inside the strait itself. No way. Instead, they're hanging back in these key strategic zones just outside, like the Gulf of Oman. This gives them room to breathe, room to maneuver, and most importantly, a safe space to intercept threats and assemble convoys before they make that dangerous run.
And this is a really critical point right now. Even though all the hardware is in place, the White House has come out and said that no confirmed U.S. Navy tanker escort has actually happened yet. The forces are there for sure, but they're a contingency plan, a plan ready to be activated at a moment's notice. Okay, so let's say the order is given. The mission is a go. Where would it all kick off? Well, because of naval doctrine and the fact that those shipping lanes are fixed, analysts are watching 5, and really only 5, likely spots where a convoy would assemble.
And this chart really breaks it down for us. The overwhelming favorite, with about a 45% probability, is the Gulf of Oman. So why there? Well, it's simple. It's the safest staging area. It's just outside the range of a lot of the coastal threats, and it's got plenty of open water for these massive tankers to get organized. The other spots are definitely possibilities, but you can bet the OSINT analysts are keeping their sharpest eye on the Gulf of Oman.
So, what exactly are those analysts looking for? What are the telltale signs? Well, these are the real world's giveaways. You'd see several tankers suddenly slow down or start circling in one area. A destroyer would move into a holding pattern nearby, and up above you'd see ISR aircraft, that's intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, orbiting overhead. Maybe even helicopters sweeping the route ahead. You see that combo? That's your big sign an escort is about to kick off.
Okay, so we've got the where pretty much figured out. Now let's talk about the who. Who's actually going to be doing the protecting? Let's look at the specific warships that are best suited and best positioned for this incredibly high-stakes job. A prime candidate for the lead escort role is a ship like the USS Laboon. I mean, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer is basically a floating fortress, especially when it comes to air defense. Its Aegis combat system is a beast. It's designed to track and shoot down dozens of incoming threats, whether they're missiles or drones.
It creates this incredible protective shield around the entire convoy.
And it's not just about American muscle either. You've got ships like the French frigate Languedoc, which is perfectly suited for this mission. These modern frigates are masters of anti-submarine warfare, and they have sensors that are tailor-made to detect and counter those small, fast attack boats, which, is a signature Iranian tactic.
So how do they all arrange themselves for the trip? Well, naval doctrine points to a pretty classic three-layer defense. You'd likely see a heavy-hitting destroyer or frigate leading the way, then you'd have a second escort trailing the tankers to guard the rear, and, this is crucial, you'd have helicopters or UAVs screening the flanks, acting as the eyes and ears of the convoy, spotting threats long before they can get close.
All right, now we have to talk about the most dangerous part of this whole playbook. What happens if all this deterrence fails? What happens if the convoy actually comes under fire? This is the high-stakes scenario that absolutely keeps military planners up at night.
The number one most immediate threat? It comes from these guys, small, fast attack boats. They're often launched in swarms from key bases like Bandar Abbas. And in the tight, confined waters of the Strait, these things can be on top of a huge, slow-moving tanker in a matter of minutes.
Now, if an attack were to happen, the retaliation would have to be swift and very, very targeted. Military planners have already identified these 4 key Iranian locations as the primary sources of the threat. We're talking about places like the Bandar Abbas Naval Complex and facilities on Qashm Island. These aren't random targets. They're the specific naval and missile sites that control the strait.
And that response would follow a very clear operational logic. The goal would be to reopen the shipping lane as quickly as possible while trying to manage escalation. So, step 1, neutralize the coastal missile batteries. Step 2, strike the bases for those fast attack boats. Step 3, suppress the radar and surveillance sites. And finally, conduct mine-clearing operations. It's a methodical, step-by-step process designed to restore control.
So there you have it. All the pieces are on the chessboard. The warships are in position, the playbook is basically written, and the potential targets are all identified. The entire world is watching this narrow stretch of water. And the question is, will this well-rehearsed plan be executed to keep global trade flowing? Or could just one single move, one miscalculation, trigger a much wider conflict that spreads far, far beyond this tiny strait?